All right. It's 2. So I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can you go ahead and call the roll? Everyone, we have to say city, county, and state. And also
Thanks.
Ken Trester won't be joining us, excused.
I'll call a roll. Holly, I'm going to be administering the meeting today, and then at some point Erin's going to jump off. So
Okay.
once that she trusts that I can handle this Zoom meeting, she's going to jump off. So with roll call, as Holly just indicated, open meetings law in the state of Michigan requires committee members and board members to announce what city and county they're in. So as I move through the roll call, if you could please list your city and county, starting first with Brenda Marcy.
Saugatuck Township, Allegan County.
Great job.
Here.
Cindy Osmond.
Cindy Osmond is here in Saugatuck City, Allegan County, state of Michigan.
Right on. Ken Chester's excused. Holly Leo.
Saugatuck City, Allegan, Michigan.
Kathy Meridian.
City of the Village of Douglas, Allegan County, and I am here.
Y'all doing great. Jerry Donovan.
Douglas, Michigan, Allegan County.
All right. Richard Donovan.
Fenville, Michigan, and Saugatuck Township, Allegan County.
John Adams.
Fenville, Michigan, Allegan County.
Thank you all. And then we have our ex officio members, myself. I think I saw Rich jump on the call.
Yep, I'm here.
And, Joe, are you on the call? Is that your phone number by chance? Joe Fry, you with us? Apparently not. Okay, back to you, Holly.
Okay. Are there any additions to today's agenda? And if not, can I call for a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Kathy made the motion. Second?
Seconded. That's Richard.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Kathy and Brenda did our minutes from March 5th. Do I have any changes to those minutes? If there are no changes, can I call for a motion to approve the minutes of March 5th?
This is Marcy. I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay. Marcy made the motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second. John Adams.
Thank you.
Holly, call for your vote. You got your first and second.
Yes, okay. So let's call the vote.
All right, everything's roll call. Great. So did we do this for the agenda as well or no? I'm a little slow today. I'm sorry.
You did not.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do roll call for the agenda, please. Brenda Marcy,
Yes.
Cindy Osmond,
Yes.
Holly Leo,
Yes.
Kathy Meridian,
Yes.
Jerry Donovan,
Yes.
Richard Donovan,
Yes.
John Quincy Adams.
Yes.
All right. Okay, approval of the minutes. Brenda Marcy,
Yes.
Cindy Osmond,
Yes.
Holly Leo,
Yes.
Kathy Meridian,
Yes.
Jerry Donovan,
Yes.
Richard Donovan,
Yes.
John Quincy Adams,
Yes.
and we're off like a herd of turtles.
Thank you so much. We now are going to move on to public comments, and we welcome any member of the public to comment at this time, limited to today's agenda topics and keeping your remarks to 3 minutes or under. Do we have any members of the community? Wave your hands wildly or let us know that you have something to say. All right, I don't see anybody. I don't know. All right,
Not seeing anything either, Holly.
All right, moving on. Today, we are reviewing 3 agreements: engineering, interlocal, and the Friends of the Blue Star agreement. Our role today is to make a committee recommendation to our respective councils and boards to approve these contracts subject to our review. And here are a few details that I want to bring to your attention. The Friends have a separate agreement with the municipalities because by law, only municipalities can enter into interlocal agreements, fun fact. Today's interlocal agreement is limited to hiring and working with C2AE. And while it's not the broader agreement the committee has been tasked with, the idea is that the engineer can help us achieve that broader interlocal. It is blessedly one of their services to help us with this. Today's agreements only cover the first phase of the engineering work described in C2AE's proposal, but I believe they form a template for the next two phases, which would be final design and construction management. And please note that these agreements are still subject to review by your able staff and attorneys when they go back to your cities. And as of right now, we want to give our professionals, the city manager and the attorneys, the ability to work out the details. The committee will just be focused on higher level concerns. And Ryan, before we get into agreements, do you want to discuss your memo?
Yeah, I would. I would like to just, I put that thing together, might as well review it, right? It should be on the screen right now. Hopefully it is. So let me just walk through this real quick. And some of this is repetitive as far as what you just said. But let me just go through it quickly. So today we'll discuss the contractual arrangements for proceeding with C2AE. And hopefully agree that the three agreements that we're going to be talking about gets sent along to your respective boards and or council. The agreements are interlocal agreement between the municipalities. And as you said, this is just related to the engineering phase for the interlocal, but it would be a great starting point. Two would be the engineering contract with C2AE. The three municipalities would enter jointly. The third would be the agreement with the Friends of the Blue Star Trail that commits the funding for the engineering. So note that the interlocal agreement only relates to the engineering work, and so not the broader interlocal agreement. So we've made this point 3 times already. The basic concept to move the project is as follows. As this is my recommendation, engineering be broken out into phases. That allows the Friends of Blue Star Trail group to not overcommit financially. And if any municipality wanted to bail out at some point in time for whatever reason, they can do it. 3 main engineering phases, conceptual design and grant application. Once we get beyond that, we'll start to talk about final design. And then you'll have your construction management phase. It's a few years off at looking at the grant timeline, but it will be coming. 3, the Friends of the Blue Star Trail will commit to the funding for the engineering work and remaining capital costs after grants are applied for and received by the municipalities. So it's their local match. Friends of the Blue Star Trail Group will use their existing relationship with the Allegan County Community Foundation to demonstrate that the funds for each phase are in place prior to the start of work. For the city of Saugatuck, I would be comfortable in recommending to our council just to get a letter from the Allegan County Community Foundation demonstrating that those funds are encumbered. I don't see entering into another relation or agreement with that group. It's just another organization that would have to take it to their board and their attorney, and I just don't really see the need for it. I trust this organization. C2AE, this is point number 4. C2AE will send monthly invoices to a liaison of the committee and the Friends of the Blue Star Trail representative for review, and then authorized payment by the Allegan County Community Foundation. Draft of the 3 agreements were sent to the Friends of Blue Star Trail group and the city and the township managers. This has been happening over the last week or 2. And we all have our legal counsel reviewing them or have reviewed them. So that will continue. Holly and I would suggest that we not get into the legal minutia, but stick to the the major points. And then there's a series of questions that we're teeing up for your committee discussion. And I do want to make a point about the engineering contract. Frankly, that's something that I've never had a committee review as far as the boilerplate language that goes into those. And also, really, our council doesn't even get into that stuff because it's really technical stuff that just doesn't get discussed. But really, what should be focused on is the scope of work, and you all have done that with your engineering contract. And my hope, speaking for this on behalf of the city of Saugatuck, is that when these 3 agreements go in front of our council, that they approve it subject to staff and legal review, and delegate authority to the mayor to execute the contract when staff and the attorneys are comfortable with it. And that just saves, it saves time from having to go to another council meeting to get things approved. Hopefully the council will trust that our capable staff will do things correctly and limit liability and any other concerns that may exist. So there's some questions here, and Holly, maybe we circle back to these during committee discussion. Do you want me to lay these out, or how do you want to handle that?
I think we can go, why don't we just go into the agreements?
Okay.
And then have discussion at the end.
Okay, sounds good. And then I have this, possible motion for the committee, which is to recommend the draft interlocal agreement, draft engineering agreement, and the draft Friends of the Blue Star Trail be sent to the city councils and township board for their review and approval. So off and running. So first up, as it relates to the agreements, is the engineering agreement. Any discussion there?
Pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah, I can just say there are a number of kind of fine points that we've identified in consultation with our construction law counsel, and I've passed on now yesterday to the city managers and council, and it's really kind of just fine tuning that agreement. And as Holly and Ryan said, I think that's legal minutia we don't need to get into, but just so that is going on.
Holly, you have Brenda with her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brenda.
I already forgot. Okay. What exactly are we looking at? This is a draft. Are we expecting a lot of changes to this particular agreement?
Richard, you want to answer that?
Yeah, I would say, as I was just indicating,
Right.
yeah, I think there probably are going to be a fair number of changes because you've got the 3 lawyers for the 3 municipalities, plus me as lawyer for the Friends, all kind of fly specking this, as we say. So I think there will be a number of small changes, but I don't think any of them are really that substantive, and they fall more in the realm of legal minutia. I will say one of them is a little more substantive, and that is just to make a little bit more clear that, and I'm trying to just see the language, that the municipalities shall not be responsible individually or jointly for payments to the engineer, and that the Friends of the Blue Star Trail shall be responsible to pay such reasonable fees.
That's coming, did you say, Richard?
Yeah, that is one of the additions that has been recommended. Now, C2AE has not agreed to that,
Okay.
but that is one thing that's been proposed. So, I would think what would happen is the 4 lawyers on our side would go back and forth, hopefully quickly in the next few days, and agree on all the changes we would like to see. We would then give that to C2AE. and then they would review it with their lawyers, and then they'd come back to us and either accept or propose a different wording. And that's typical that in these things, that's how the negotiations go. The lawyers kick it back and forth until they arrive at language that both sides can accept. So that's what I expect would happen.
Yeah, one of the things that jumped out at me, and that's it, we're not lawyers. I don't think any of us are lawyers. I could be wrong. But so one thing that did jump out at me is that sentence on page 25 of the agreement that says, whereas the Friends have agreed to pay the reasonable fees, blah, 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 related to the project, and the municipalities desire to minimize or avoid obligation. Do you think that they've replaced that with what you just talked about in terms of money? I'm asking because our understanding is for this portion of it, we won't have any obligation. So we don't want to, it's not that, yeah, we don't minimize or avoid isn't quite clear enough for my liking, but I haven't voiced this to anyone else on my board. So, and I don't know what the lawyer has said. So.
Yeah, Holly, you want me to respond?
Yes, please.
The answer, Brenda, is yes. Since this draft, which you have in front of you,
Right.
One or more of the lawyers has suggested replacing that with the language I just read, something similar to that.
Yes.
And let me just, if I can, maybe it'll help, just take a step back. What we're really talking about here is that it's only the first phase.
Right.
The C2AE has said they will do this for a price not to exceed $39,000, $400. The Friends have agreed to pay that amount, up to that amount. The
Right.
Friends have more than that on account already with the Community Foundation, which the Community Foundation can confirm at some point, in a, however the managers want to do that. So it would seem the risk to the municipalities of incurring any financial obligation is extremely low. The only way that could happen, I guess, is if for some reason, the Friends turned around and spent all that money somewhere else, and now there's no money left when the time comes to pay the engineer. But that isn't going to happen because that money is dedicated to the Blue Star Trail. We have a fiduciary obligation to spend it for that purpose, because that's what our donors gave it to us to do. And this is the only real section of trail we're working on right now. So that's where that money is intended to go.
Right. Okay.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the engineering agreement?
Just one thing, Ryan, is the engineering agreement. I think one of the attorneys proposed inserting a paragraph about the role of the liaison and the fact that C2AE will deal with the liaison and be allowed to rely on what the liaison says. So that does now bring up that particular point. The lawyers can draft language to do whatever this committee or the governing bodies want. So the question really is, what does this committee want to recommend in terms of the role of the liaison? And Ryan has offered to serve in that position. So I think probably we just need to talk that through a little bit so we can give direction to the attorneys about, how to define that role or limit that role if people want it to be limited.
Yeah, Rich, and I would just, and Rich Lombard, who's on the call, he brought up this point at the last meeting that, the engineer is going to want one point of contact and not hearing from multiple members of committees and boards. All of that makes sense. Really, I see the role. I mean, one thing to just keep in mind for our elected officials is that ultimately they get to approve the design. that goes before each and every one of the boards, and they're the decision makers at the end of the day. And so the role of the liaison is more administrative in nature. They're just kind of a vessel or an instrument to funnel thoughts and ideas and provide some direction that comes out of the committee to the engineers.
Yeah, Ryan, I guess I would just say that is true. But along the way of getting to that final design, which is going to be approved by the boards, there will be some substantive decisions. So for example, the engineers could say to you as liaison, should we look at the possibility of putting the trail on the west side of the bridge, or the possibility of building a cantilever structure on the bridge, which they had mentioned in their proposal. And from the Friends' point of view, we would say, no, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't spend the time and the money to do that, because the west side option was already reviewed with Fleece and Vandenbrink and was decided not to proceed with that for cost and other reasons. And the whole cantilever approach would obviously be much more expensive, because you're now adding onto the structure of the bridge. And the Friends would be very reluctant to undertake any commitment to have to pay for that. So, in theory, you could authorize C2 to go ahead and investigate those things. But, that really wouldn't be a good idea as far as we're concerned. So there could be those substantive decisions that could come up along the way. And, again, we just need to have an understanding as to how we want to handle that. In that instance, for example, I would expect you would come back to the committee and say, okay, guys, here's what the engineers are proposing. What do you think? And that's fine. But the other thing to remember is this committee expires by its own terms on June 1. And, what happens if it's after June 1 and the committee doesn't get extended? Where do we go then?
I think we need to get that expiration date moved on the committee until you present your final design. It only makes sense to do that. And you're right, Richard. I mean, I guess you're going to have to. There has to be a level of trust with the liaison that they're going to bring all major decisions in front of this committee, and that I will use, or the liaison will use, good judgment in just determining what's substantial and what isn't. Any other thoughts? I don't know if we did. I don't think we've answered your question, Richard.
Well, you've given me some guidance, I guess.
I guess. But how, Rich? How you feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm thinking this through a little bit. So I think the key here is recognizing those decision points and knowing when to bring them forward. So to me, I gotta make sure that the liaison understands what those decision points are. It should be fairly logical, but I don't know that it's always going to be logical. So that's my one concern, and maybe that sounds similar to what Richard is saying as well, that those decision points should be brought forward, sure, but something that might seem like minutia can be a big deal in the long run. For example, 2 lanes versus 3 lanes over the bridge, that's a big deal. Right side of the bridge, left side of the bridge, east side, west side, that's a big deal. So I think to Brian's point, it's a matter of trust, right? But I appreciate also that the communities have the ability to veto any of those designs, but by the time you get to that point, there's a lot of money and time invested in the design to just veto it. So perhaps some milestone check-ins would be a good way to handle this, and maybe everybody else can chime in on what their thoughts are too. But did C2AE provide milestone check-ins or some kind of a progress check-in in their report? I don't recall.
I don't recall, but I think, Rich, I think that's an excellent suggestion. I also think that some of this falls to C2AE and Emily Meyerson and their community person, that they will also be fulfilling the role of presenting designs to us and engaging with the cities and also the, you know, the citizens. So I can't imagine that, you know, we're sort of making it sound like we're making a phone call to make those decisions with the liaison, but those decisions will be made publicly. And that's one of the things as chair, I'm so excited about, to have the engineer on board, because we could use help with messaging to the community, to getting the word out about the designs, and even doing the interlocals and doing some of this paperwork that's so difficult. So that is, you know, I see them helping us in many prongs here.
Can I ask one question? Has there been a general consensus about what the outcome of this is supposed to be? Does everybody understand that this is going to be a trail on the west side of the road, across the bridge, connecting into Douglas and going to, I mean, have those basics been established?
Well, I think when we had our meeting and we reviewed the trail and the engineering work that has been done to date, and that's why I went ahead and included the map, because, and I think I'm just going to do this at every meeting that we have, is I'm going to include this route map, and that's pretty much where we're at. And I think when we have our kickoff with the engineer and we move into engineering and we are done with these agreements, this is where we can really solidify this. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's helpful. I apologize. I've missed a couple of meetings, so I'm not sure what content I missed.
Well,
And I don't want to belabor the point either, but I just want to just throw it out there. Do you all have a general consensus of what the project is?
it's a very fair question, and that's one of the reasons why we did this almost immediately. And I think Cindy was one of the people that suggested, hey, what are we even talking about here? You know, what is our focus? So you know, over the years we've talked about a lot of pieces and parts. So and the way things look. So to your point, that's something that we need to focus on immediately at the kickoff and make sure that we're all on the same page. So I think it's a good point to make.
Yeah, I think that kickoff meeting will be key and will probably resolve a lot of these questions.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, Rich. And then also just let you know, in the agreement with the Friends of the Blue Star Trail, I did request that they include some language about, very specific language about kind of the geographic scope of the work. Which Richard said, no problem, we can do that.
Direct quote.
Direct quote. Then he gave me 20 bucks. Just kidding. So Richard, going back to your question, like the role of the liaison, I would just see it being administrative, not a decision maker. If that helps.
I think that did clarify. Thank you, Ryan.
Cool.
And I think at the last meeting, we all talked about the importance of having a liaison. We know how it goes when there isn't one. They don't know who to go to. They get direction from every which person, and then the people end up infighting or whatever. It's just not good. So I'm glad we're going the route of having a liaison. And I think you're a great choice because most of the work is going to be done in Saugatuck. And city managers do manage engineering contracts. You have the experience for it. I certainly couldn't do it. So thank you for stepping up and volunteering.
You're welcome. I'll do my best.
And Ryan, I didn't know if you saw that Joe, he was on pretty much from the beginning. He was under an alias first.
Hi. Hey, Joe.
Hello.
Do you want to jump? Do you have any comments to date or to this moment?
So one of the drafts that we saw come through was that the project liaison, which I think is a fantastic idea, and I think Ryan would be a good choice to be the liaison, but would feed through to help communicate with the township, and the other Douglas's city board would talk with us other managers for some of the construction stuff, and it would feed back and forth that way. So when the final plan comes before, it's fine within our jurisdictions. That would be the only comment on that. And then for the overall agreement, we're just waiting for the final one so that we can put it on our agenda on Wednesday.
And which agreement was that, Joe?
The three of them. So with
All three
the,
of them. Okay.
yeah.
And really, I don't know if we'll have what we consider to be final. You'll probably get comments from your board on your Wednesday night meeting. And it's, again, my hope that they're gonna, what I'm gonna ask my board for is delegate authority to the mayor to sign the final agreement, and then allow the attorney and staff to work on like the technical terms to get to a point where we can present it to the mayor for signature.
Yep.
That way we're not, we're saving some time there to move this forward rather than waiting for another council meeting.
Yep, we're just waiting for, that final, rough draft. You always have the final rough draft before it goes with the
Yeah,
final tweaks on it. So we will just be waiting for that one to come back around to us.
and for your Wednesday meeting, you're saying you're coming?
Yeah, so if we could have it on Tuesday, for transparency's sake, that way we can get it to our attorney, have the review in for the packet, and we can publish that edition for residents for transparency's sake.
Thank you, Joe. I know that this is happening pretty quick. Appreciate you working with us all.
No problem.
If I could just ask the elected officials, does that approach seem reasonable? And that's something you've done before, I imagine?
We have, in our city, we have.
Yeah,
Where we give the approval basically to the city manager or mayor to do the final, but we agree at the meeting that in general, we are fine with it. Mhm. We've done that.
Yeah, we've done that in Saugatuck as well, and I talked to Ken Truster last night, because he has a lot more experience with dealing with these agreements, and he was very supportive of that approach. I mean, as I've talked to a few of you one-on-one, and we all are like, we're not attorneys, I mean, it's heavy lifting, and Joe and Cindy are more than capable, Ryan and our attorney, we have people that do this, and they know what they're doing. So it's not unusual. We've done this before. We agree with the spirit and the intent, and we let the professionals work out the hows.
That sounds like a good motion.
Well, we recorded it. The meeting's recorded, so we can capture that motion for your board.
Okay, so Ryan, should we go ahead and talk about the interlocal and the Friends of the Blue Star agreement really quickly?
Yeah, let's do
Just
it.
if you don't mind just touching on that. And I feel like we're interspersing our community discussion. We're doing it in real time, which is fine. So let's just continue with that approach, I think.
Yeah, sounds great. So let's see what's next. Interlocal? Sorry, I don't have the
Yeah, so we were talking about the engineering. Does anybody else have any questions about engineering before we just quickly move on to interlocal? Okay,
Okay, I'll let Richard speak to this, but in my mind, this intergovernmental interlocal is just kind of, it's similar to the resolution, kind of just takes it to the next level. And again, it's specific to the engineering portion of this project. So it's a starting point and can be expanded on. Richard, do you have any comments?
Yeah, that's right. And it seemed like I've seen the comments of the Saugatuck City Attorney and the Township Attorney, and they seem both were fine with the general approach, which is good because I'm not a municipal attorney, but they are. I think there probably will be some tweaks to it, but the general approach seemed acceptable. One thing we were going to change is in number 4. It was sort of drafted with the idea that this was going to cover the entire project all the way to the end. But because C2 wanted to limit the contract to just the first phase, then I think we'll just tweak number 4 to take out some of the initial parts of it and basically just focus on this one phase. But it's still the same approach where the foundation will confirm they have the money. When everybody signs the contracts, C2AE will be authorized to commence work, and then they'll issue monthly invoices, they'll get reviewed and get paid. So, that's the gist of it. Unless anybody thought that there needs to be something else in there. The idea of the interlocal is for the 3 governments to be comfortable working together on this project. And so, if there's something else anybody thinks, you want to have in there, by all means, voice it.
Comments or questions on the interlocal? It's pretty boring stuff, y'all. It's not sexy. It's not entertaining. I think it does the trick though.
Yeah, and one thing I guess just to point out is, I think Ryan mentioned this earlier in his memo. When can anybody bail out of this? There's 4 parties, including us, and we are expecting to be treated equally. But how does that work? And on the one hand, I think we're all in good faith committed to do this, and our governing bodies have all, said that. And obviously the Friends have been working on this for years. But I think the agreements, especially with some of the language added by the attorneys, they do allow any municipality to pull out, and the Friends would request the same treatment. I don't expect anybody will do that, obviously, and hope that wouldn't happen. But on the one hand, I'd like to say, no, you can't do that. We're all in this. We're committing to do it. We got to see it through to the end. But I realize that's not realistic. There can be changes in circumstances, or, I don't know, you just somebody gets just totally unhappy with the direction things are going, or whatever. You don't like C2AE. I don't know, whatever it is, I guess it's necessary that we have that out provision. But I just wanted to emphasize that it is there, or will be there.
Okay, shall we move on to the next agreement, which is the Friends agreement? Madam Chair, you comfortable with that? You're on mute.
sorry about that.
No
Yep,
worries.
keep going. Let's do Friends of the Blue Star Agreement, please.
Richard, do you want to?
Sure. Okay, so so the idea was, we're not a signatory to the contract with C2, but we had always intended to pay the engineering fees, subject to possibly getting reimbursed later if the DNR grant is approved and there's money there to pay for engineering fees. But certainly for this first phase, we're prepared to pay the reasonable fees. And so obviously, the three municipalities don't want to enter into the contract with the engineer unless you know that somebody's paying their fees and you're not going to get stuck with it. And that's what this agreement is intended to do, to promise to you that that yes, we will pay, subject to the terms in the agreement.
And I think maybe party to this agreement would be a letter, as I mentioned earlier, a letter from the community foundation that the funds do exist and they are encumbered for this specific purpose. I think that will be enough for the city of Saugatuck's council to be comfortable.
And you already have a relationship, Richard, with the foundation, and you have had a relationship with the foundation. That's where you've been collecting funds for years, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So, any other questions?
I mean, one thing here that this raises is kind of the role of the Friends. And as I said, our main role is as a funder. And, just like a bank who's funding a transaction or something similar, as I said, we just ask that we be treated equally with the municipalities. One thing is, kind of how we're going to proceed on a day-to-day basis. The Friends have a lot of history and experience with the trail, for good and bad. But Ryan is new. It's great that he's going to be the liaison, but he's new to the trail and new to the community. He has some trail experience in his prior job, but we hope and think we can be a good resource. So we fully support the idea of having the liaison and having a single point of contact, but it's our understanding that we will be kind of an integral part of the discussion, so to speak, and we'll be involved in meetings with the engineer and that kind of thing, where wherever we can be of help. That's not to say we're going to control the process by any means. As Ryan said, any substantive decision is going to come back to this committee or its successor. But our role is partly to facilitate, and we think we're in a unique position to do that. John, you have anything to add on that?
No, I think you covered it well, Richard.
Just want to make sure you're all comfortable with that.
All right. Any other questions? Should we, any other things that we need to discuss?
Richard, I have these other, you've addressed questions 1 and 2 on the screen. Do you want to just run through the rest of these while I have them up?
Yeah, just quickly, number 3 is just a hypothetical. What happens if C2 comes back and says, we don't want to have a contract with the municipalities where they are disavowing any obligation to pay our fees? Because there's no contract between the Friends and C2, right? So we're not directly promising C2 to pay their fees. We're doing it through the municipalities for good reasons, but there's a chance their lawyers could say, you shouldn't do it that way, and they may balk. I don't know that we have to get into that today. If they balk and the lawyers can't work it out, then we might have to come back to you. But that was just why that is in there. Number 4, I think we've already talked about, proceeding in phases, and as Ryan indicated, the reason is just so the Friends can indicate along the way that we have the money for each phase, but we don't have to raise all the money up front, which, would be impossible. And then finally, number 5 really was already decided for us by C2. They drafted their contract to limit it to the first phase. So, and that seems fine. That's certainly a reasonable way to proceed. So I think we've covered that.
Mhm. I mean, I would just say it makes sense to me. I mean, this has been such a difficult and contentious project. And now that we have forward momentum, I think it makes sense to break things into phases and to continue to build trust and to make things bite-sized and doable. It seems to have worked in the last couple months, that approach. And I think, it allows us to sort of continue keeping things manageable and making sure that we're addressing concerns as they come up. Anybody else have any thoughts about that? I mean, as chair, honestly, I want you all to be able to focus on design. That's, it's my wish that we can get through these agreements, that we can let our professionals work on these agreements, and that we can keep our powder dry for design. That I can really, that feels like, where we need to be focused as a committee.
I agree with that, Madam Chair. Well stated. Save your energy for design. That's where the meat of your work. That's where your work starts, really. I mean, I know that the resolution requires you all to do the interlocal agreement, which you're doing, but I mean, the meat is when it comes to the design. Save your energy.
Yes.
So I do have a recommended motion up on the screen, unless you want to have some more committee discussion. It's up to you, Madam Chair.
Does everybody else feel like they weighed in? Okay, then I would like to make a motion to recommend the draft interlocal agreement, the draft engineering agreement, and the draft Friends of the Blue Star Trail agreement be sent to City Council and City Councils and Township Board for their review and approval.
Can I ask? Oh, wait, I'll let the motion go before we discuss.
Okay. Second? Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Holly?
Brenda's.
Yeah, go ahead, Brenda. Sorry.
Okay, so in your motion, which draft? Because as Joe said, he's waiting for that next draft. Doesn't matter. Do we need to be specific? Joe?
Could, to make things easier, and as Ryan mentioned, a little bit more flexible, the committee could just say make a motion to accept the interlocal agreement in concept and as proposed by the attorneys. And then that way, us managers and our municipal attorneys can do all their work before our board, and it meets your open-ended agreement and meets the resolution as you're proposing, the concept and the workout and framework, and then the attorneys go in and actually put all the legalese in. So it's a little bit more open-ended instead of just this one that you have, but the one that is the final one that comes in. That would be my recommendation.
How does everybody feel about that? Richard?
Yeah, just Holly, you guys know better than me, but do you have to specifically say that the governing bodies are going to authorize somebody to actually sign this agreement? What we're trying to avoid is having to go back to the governing bodies again, right?
I do think that that's the way it works. You have to vote that they are authorized. So if we bring it to council, then we have our discussion and then the motion gets made that we authorize our city manager to sign it when the final one comes. I think it literally has to be stated that way in the motion. Not our motion here, but that night, it has to be.
I think Richard's question may be along the lines of, does this committee want to recommend that the elected officials, the board and the councils request that they authorize a member of council to sign the documents? Is that correct, Richard? You're trying to frame that in this committee motion to encourage?
I just was raising whether you think that's desirable or not.
I think it is. And Joe and Rich, do you think that you would frame it that way for your boards?
Yeah, I would certainly do that. Just authorize the respective mayor or supervisor to sign the documents.
Yeah, so our,
All you'd have to add.
yeah, for us, it, similar motion with the final recommendations by the attorneys, the clerk and supervisor would sign. That would be the motion going forward to them.
Got it. So Richard, I think you're taken care of by the fact that the managers plan to present it that way to their
Right.
councils.
Okay, great.
And then Holly, if you wanted to amend your motion.
So I would like to amend the motion to recommend that the draft interlocal agreement, draft engineering agreement, and draft Friends of the Blue Star Trail agreement be sent to the city councils and township board for their review and approval following attorney review. Respective attorney review, is that correct?
I think we're there. Joe was just mentioning that rather than saying the draft interlocal agreement, which is a very specific thing at this point,
Oh, I see.
he was just recommending that
Concept. So
conceptual interlocal, the
Conceptual.
parameters that have been set around the interlocal agreement, engineering agreement, and drafts of the Blue Star Trail, as discussed by committee today, be sent to the council and township board for their review and approval.
Why don't you make that motion? Because
I just did.
person saying that wording.
Taking minutes. This is getting me a little confused.
All
Can
right,
somebody
Kathy,
just redo this motion altogether so I can write it down, please?
sure. Let's take our time with it. All right, my recommendation to you, Holly, is for this committee to recommend the parameters that have been discussed today by committee for the interlocal agreement, engineering agreement, and Friends of the Blue Star Trail be sent to city council and township board for their review and approval.
Okay.
And who was the second on the previous motion? Do we remember that?
Was it Kathy?
I was.
Okay, Kathy, do you want to second that amended motion?
Yes, but I mean, I'll be honest, I'm still confused because right before you repeated that, there was talk of taking it with the authorization of a mayor to sign it and all those things. And then it came out simple again. So I'm just not, I'm not sure where we are. I must be.
No, it's cool. I understand the confusion. So that issue, as far as like authorization by the mayor, that was discussed. The managers all agreed that's the way they're going to present it to their.
So we
Okay,
don't
so
have
it
to have
doesn't
here.
need to be in the motion.
Thank you. I will remove that. Thank you. I do
Okay.
second it.
Okay, then. Holly, back
Alright.
to you for any additional discussion.
Yeah, is there any additional comments or discussion from the committee at this time? All right, do we need to take a roll call?
We do. Brenda Marcy,
Yes.
Cindy Osmond,
Yes.
Holly Leo,
Yes.
Kathy Meridian,
Yes.
Jerry Donovan,
Yes.
Richard Donovan,
Yes.
John Quincy Adams.
Yes.
Okay, bingo, bango.
All right. Motion is moved. Thank you all. All right. I think we can move on to next steps. And the next steps, we will be having our kickoff meeting with the engineers, and we can begin to think about design. And we will go back to Rich LeBombard's question immediately, which is, we'll be focused on route. So we can begin to focus on that. And talking to our fellow board and council members and sort of revisiting our city concerns there. And I look forward to doing that with C2A. And I think that's it. Does anybody have anything to say about that? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to general public comments. Any members of the public who would like to weigh in on anything about the non-motorized trail at this time? Just limit your comments to 3 minutes. Let us know that you would like to speak. Going once, going twice. All right, do we have any member closing comments at this time? No?
I'd like to thank Ryan for taking on the role of liaison. That's terrific. We're really glad to have you on board. Good luck with it. And so far, we've been really pleased with the level of interaction and communication. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a pretty exciting project.
Mhm.
And I just want to thank everybody's patience. These agreements are really difficult. We're all doing new things with these interlocal agreements, trying to have these tri-community committees. And I just thank you for everyone's patience and everyone's willingness to give us some flexibility while we work these things through. And it's a lot of, I know that there's been a lot of work done already. So thank you all. Anyone else have any comments to make at this time? All right. If there's nothing else, can I have a motion to adjourn?
This is Marcy. I'll move to adjourn.
All right. I think we need a second.
Support.
What's that? So moved. And then, can we have a roll call?
Brenda Marcy,
Yes.
Cindy Osmond,
Yes.
Holly Leo,
Yes.
Kathy Meridian,
Yes.
Jerry Donovan,
Yes.
Richard Donovan,
Yes.
John Quincy Adams.
Yes.
You are adjourned.
Seconded it, though. I couldn't catch that.
Oh no. Who was the
Was
second?
you,
one?
Kathy? That was me,
Cindy
Cindy.
Osmond.
Cindy, I just need it in the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you all. Have a
All
great
right.
Ciao.
weekend.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.